Hi, I'm Jeff, and welcome to another one of my videos where I take a look at all the new comic books coming out on either April 11th or 12th, 2023, and I ask myself the question, what one new comic book would I buy this week if I could buy just one book? Let's go ahead and jump right into the content of this video, first by taking a look back at my pick from 2 weeks ago, which was The Ambassadors, issue number 1. The question remains, was it a worthy and worthwhile pick to be my just one book pick of the week? The answer is yes. Yes, it was. I'm going to say yes. I enjoyed it. For those of you who need a refresher, The Ambassadors is basically about a person who invents the ability to give people superpowers and has decided to give 6 people superpowers. And it's about the process they're going to go through to choose the 6 people who will receive these superpowers. That's an interesting enough premise in and of itself, but there's a lot more going on in this story than just that. And that is a big reason why it was a worthy and worthwhile just one book pick for me. So I do plan to continue it and see it all the way through to the end. Now, that being said, it was a relatively easy decision for me to continue to read The Ambassadors because I did enjoy it a lot, but it's also a 6-issue limited series, so it's a low commitment. If it was going to be potentially dozens and dozens of issues, I'd probably give it 3 or 5 issues and then decide. But since I know it's a 6-issue limited series, I have decided I will continue to read it because I enjoyed it enough to do that. If you read The Ambassadors, let me know what you thought about it down in the comment. All right, let's go ahead now and move forward and take a look at the books that are coming out this upcoming week. Now, I have about 15 books I want to tell you about this week, which is really, really good for us comic book enthusiasts. There's a lot of stuff to talk about, but really, really bad for us YouTube content creators because I don't like making videos that are so long. I value your time and mine. So I'm going to move through these books as quickly as possible. I'll probably comment on them very little. Let's go ahead and jump right in. The first honorable mention that I want to tell you about this week, speaking of The Ambassadors, is The Ambassadors, issue number 2 of a 6-issue limited series from Image Comics. Here's the description. The 6 best people in the world will be given superpowers by a Korean billionaire who's cracked the superhuman code. First up is an ambassador for India and his training at their secret Antarctic base. Okay, so the reason why this is on my honorable mentions this week is because I liked issue number 1 and I'm going to keep reading it and I am buying it this week. So it is an honorable mention that I am telling you about. The next book I want to mention is a new book. It is called The Giant Kokju, issue number 1 of a 3-issue limited series from Image Comics. Here's the description. The despicable Deadpool team reunites to give the world the giant monster attack story that movies and TV are too squeamish to show you. This is a tale of woe about a monster with physical needs. It needs a restroom, it needs food too, and most unfortunately, it needs sexual satisfaction. The only thing standing in its way are the men and women of science. We're proudly flying our M rating for violence, mild gore, sexual situations, nudity, dudity, turds, comedy, drama, and some very tasteful swearing. Okay, so I mentioned this book this week because it sounds like it could be fun for adults. Possibly over the top and enjoyable for adults. So if you're an adult who likes monster stuff, but you also like stuff that's maybe a little gory and a little graphic and a little silly, this might be a book for you to consider checking out this week. The next book I want to mention to you is a new book. It is called The Seasons Have Teeth, issue number 1 of a 4-issue limited series from Boom Studios. Here's the description. In a drab, colorless world, the seasons bring change and also destruction. Andrew, a retired conflict photographer, lives a life steeped in regret after an unthinkable tragedy. But everything shifts when the seasons arrive, each one a personified, god-like creature. As he risks everything to track down spring, summer, autumn, fall, and winter, will capturing the perfect picture of each be enough to find redemption and ultimately bring color back to his world. Dan Waters of Sword of Azrael and Homesick Pilots, writing acclaim, is joined by artist Sebastian Cabral for a tale that is both down to earth and supernaturally apocalyptic in its pertinence. All right, well, this is a pretty heady concept. The guy wants to take pictures of the seasons personified. Okay, I imagine there's a lot more going on there, but there's pretty deep in concept, kind of, sort of. If something like that sounds interesting to you, I recommend this book to you this week. The next book I want to mention to you is Clear, issue number 2 of a 3-issue limited series from Dark Horse Comics. Here's the description. Secrets are unveiled as Dunes continues to unravel the mystery behind his wife's death and the legacy she left. The clock is ticking as our Neo-Seamus's own perception of reality begins to fracture. Writer Scott Snyder and artist Francis Manipool step out from the world of caped heroes to present a sci-fi noir tale for the ages. In this wild and twisting mystery where nothing is as it seems, discover a future where no one sees life the same way. So, this is an honorable mention this week because I am buying it. I bought issue number 1. I liked it enough. It wasn't great, but I liked Scott Snyder and I liked it enough that because it's a 3-issue limited series, I'm gonna stick with it. So that is why I'm mentioning it to you this week, because it's something I'm buying. The next book I want to mention to you is a new book. It is called The Great British Bump Off, issue number 1 of a 4-issue limited series from Dark Horse Comics. Here's the description. An Agatha Christie-style murder mystery set in the world of English competitive baking from Giant Days' John Allison and Max Sarin. When she enters her country's most beloved baking competition, Shauna Wickle's goal is to delight the judges, charm the nation, and make a few friends along the way. But when a fellow contestant is poisoned, it falls to her to apprehend the culprit, while avoiding premature elimination from the UK bakery tent, and being the poisoner's next victim. I mention this because it's lighter fare. It's not superheroes, it's not horror, it's not violent. It does have a murder at the heart of it, but it's a murder that takes place at a baking competition. And if the art style is any indication, it's meant to be kind of fun and lighthearted, but with a little bit of a serious twist. And since it's a little bit of a change of pace and something a little different this week, I wanted to make sure it was on your radar. The next book I want to mention to you is Captain America Cold War Alpha. Issue number 1, I believe Alpha implying that it is a one-shot. It's numbered number 1 though, however. Here's the description. The revolution starts here. Cold War, Part 1. Bucky Barnes is the Outer Circle's new revolution, and he has enacted his deadliest move yet, an alliance with Sam Wilson's nemesis, the White Wolf. When Steve Rogers' adopted son, Ian, aka Nomad, is abducted by someone Steve thought was a friend, he suspects Bucky's hand at work and calls upon the people who know Ian best, Sam Wilson, Sharon Carter, and Misty Knight, to help him get to the bottom of the attack. Has Bucky finally gone too far? Why has Nomad been taken? And what does it have to do with a portal to Dimension Z opening over a secret battleground in Alaska? The symbol of truth and the sentinel of liberty reunite for a pulse-pounding crossover event that will make them question everything they believe in and each other. Some of these descriptions are written poorly sometimes. Okay, so I have to admit, as I'm reading the description of this, I'm a little bit like, I cannot believe that this is the beginning of a crossover, like, major event that's happening. Someone's been kidnapped and we got to find them. I mean, this is a pretty weak premise for like a major crossover event. I'm not particularly interested, but Marvel wants you to be interested, and I want you to at least know what's out there, which is why it's on my honorable mentions this week. The next book I want to mention to you is a new book. It is Guardians of the Galaxy, issue number 1 from Marvel Comics. Here's the description. Who are the Guardians of the Galaxy? 1 year ago, the Guardians of the Galaxy were destroyed, their optimistic future shattered by the betrayal of one of their own. Now they ride the space lanes of a lawless corner of the galaxy, trying to outrun their tragedy. Can they rediscover their heroism and humanity on the bleakest frontier? Can they forgive the failures of their past? Or will they fade into the dark, eternally unforgiven? Writers Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly team up with artist Kev Walker for a Guardian story like no other. I mentioned this book this week because before the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, nobody cared about the Guardians of the Galaxy. But then the MCU brought us the Guardians of the Galaxy, and we learned that there's a lot of potential in that group. It's really entertaining, really action-packed, really fun. And so if they're having a new Guardians of the Galaxy title, I hope that a lot of the things that we've learned about the Guardians through the MCU have been put into their comic books. And I like fun and action and adventure and being entertained. So if you do too and you're looking for some kind of new superhero fare to check out this week, Guardians of the Galaxy might be a great place to go. The next book I want to mention to you is a new book. It is Marvel Voices Spider-Verse, issue number 1 from Marvel Comics. Here's the description. An awesome assembly of Marvel's mightiest. An all-new selection of interdimensional adventures from some of Marvel's freshest and finest creators, each bringing their own unique perspectives and stylings to the web of life and destiny. What new spiders will find their way to the Marvel multiverse, and what familiar faces will join them for this titanic and oversized issue? Well, it was a pretty exciting week in comic books this past week, which is something we'll get into more in next week videos, but unsurprisingly, the Spider-Verse is strong, and ignoring the Spider-Verse is not wise. This book was just about almost my just one book pick for the week. And I don't currently intend on buying it, but it is 1,000% on the front of my radar. I am going to be paying attention to any news that comes about this book because, especially coming off this past week, you don't ignore things Spider-Verse. And this book is all Spider-Verse, and it references what new spiders will find their way to the Marvel multiverse. I don't know, but if there's even one new multiverse Spider-Man kind of thing going on here, it's worth paying attention to and knowing about. So make sure you're paying attention to this book as well. The next book I want to mention to you is a new book. It is Star Wars Return of the Jedi EWOKS, issue number 1 from Marvel Comics. Here's the description. Tales of the EWOKS. On the moon of Endor, occupied by the species called EWOKS, a group of these stout creatures has gathered around the fire to recount tales of triumph, defeat, and horror. In the art-forward manner of storytelling, watch an eclectic group of artists interpret the stories from the unique minds of EWOKS in a manner only they can envision. This can't-miss issue of for Star Wars fans of mirth, merriment, and artistry is the book you've been craving. So, when I think about the top 20 best characters in Star Wars, generally I don't think the EWOKS make the cut. That being said, I like EWOKS. I like Return of the Jedi. I like EWOKS. I mean, yeah, they're just kind of like, cute little furry characters that are meant for a little bit of levity and comic relief in Return of the Jedi. But then, when it comes to fighting the Empire, boy howdy, did they hold their own. So I respect the EWOKS, and I have to respect stories about the EWOKS. And because the EWOKS don't speak English, so I don't, and this book promises to be art forward. I wonder if it's basically going to be told all in like nyups and just visual storytelling, which could be interesting and entertaining. So if you're a big Star Wars fan, especially if you're a fan of EWOKS, you might consider this book this week. The next book I want to mention to you is a new book. It is called All the Devils Are Here, issue number 1 from Scout Comics. Here's the description. Joe is an elderly dementia patient that becomes possessed by a powerful demon. In order to save him, an unconventional and mysterious exorcist, J.C. Garcia, must venture into his mind. Once inside, he finds far more than he bargained for, an ever-changing hellscape created by a fusion of Morris's and the demon's memories that brings J.C. face to face with his own traumatic past. All the Devils Are Here reinvents the exorcism story with a unique emotional tale about the power of love, loss, and memory. So, of all the premises for books, for new books this week, this is the one that interests me the most. I do not currently plan on buying this book, but I am legit curious about it. So if you do buy this book, let me know down in the comments after you've read it what you thought about it. The premise sounds really, really interesting. It's original enough that I'm engaged. I know people have gone into other people's minds before to like solve problems, but the idea that there's a demon in there and that the mind is also of an unfortunately a person with dementia. This could be really, really cool. So if the art is really well done, the premise sounds interesting. So if you're looking to take a flyer on an indie this week and you just, you don't have any books you're pulling and you just want to try something, this might be the one I steer you towards just as a let's see what this is all about kind of pick. Speaking of exorcists, my next honorable mention is Exorcists Never Die. Issue number 1 of a 6-issue limited series from Mad Cave Studios. Here's the description. Sid Miller and Ellen Blair are the world's 2 premier combat exorcists. The only problem? After a nuclear breakup years ago, they can't stand each other. But when the biggest soul auction in history kicks off beneath Los Angeles, Sid and Ellen have no choice but to come together to raid the Hellscraper, an infernal tower going straight down into the earth. With thousands of souls on the line, Sid and Ellen must fight their way to the bottom or die trying. All right, well, this is a pretty straightforward action book. It promises lots of fighting of demons. If that kind of story interests you, you might consider this book this week. The next book I want to mention to you is a new book. It is called Griffin, issue number 1 of a 3-issue limited series from Whatnot Publishing. Here's the description. Series artist Bruno Hidalgo, known for his work on the Ignaz Award-nominated series Heavenly Blues, offers an original cover design for Griffin in print for the first time. In the distant future, mankind has taken to the stars and spread across the galaxy. They've encountered hundreds of worlds, met dozens of species, and crushed them all in the iron fist of humanity. Humans now reign over the Milky Way as a fascist empire known as the Sovereign Reach, and their most feared soldier is the merciless Captain Lila Griffin. 6 months ago, they disappeared. 1 week ago, they returned, changed, radicalized to bring down the empire they once served. Now, Captain Griffin has a new mission: to recruit a crew of rogue officers and mad scientists to set fire to the galaxy, no matter how many get burnt along the way. Sounds kind of interesting. Sounds kind of fun. Sounds kind of exciting. Sounds like a cool adventure with lots of action. I can't be mad at this. If you're looking for a kind of a spacey themed adventure with some, fighting and freeing and oppressed people, you might consider Griffin this week. Similarly, we have this next book called Neverender Final Duel, issue number 1 of a 3-issue limited series from Sumerian Comics. Here's the description. The year is 2X19, and due to breakthroughs in artificial accelerants, mankind has taken to the stars. At the edge of civilization, the dominant sport is a civilized sword duel to the death. The top 5 fighters are protected by Saguaro, a talented and tenacious duelist. Team Egalit is forced to choose which direction to fight after Merrick openly criticizes the colonial republic after his previous duel. Dice and Kino equip Neverender for the endgame. So, this book sounds like it could be pretty cool if you're into sci-fi sword fighting to the death. So, if that's you, I wanted this to be on your radar. The next book I want to mention to you is a new book. It is Sandman Universe Nightmare Country, The Glass House, issue number 1 of a 6-issue limited series from DC Black Label. Here's the description. The Corinthian has been turned loose on our realm once more, and this time he sets his sights on the very root of rapacious American capitalism, Silicon Valley. His relentless pursuit of the Smiling Man will carve a bloody path from the C-suite of profit capital to the bowels of a demonic nightclub. And no one will be safe from his reach. Not Ken, living in the Bay Area since parting ways with Barbie all those years ago. Not Max, a nervous hedge fund manager on the rise who's never quite fit anywhere. Not anyone. Multiple Eisner Award-winning writer James Tynion IV reunites with superstar horror artist Lissandro Esthetherin to bring you the nightmare-fueled follow-up you've been craving. A tale that will plumb the bottomless depths of our yearning for more at the heart of the American dream. DC especially writes very kind of convoluted, dense, wordy, not great descriptions, but I do my best. What you need to know is that this is a continuation of James Tynion IV's Nightmare Country, Sandman Universe Nightmare Country. This is now Nightmare Country, The Glass House. Nightmare Country was good. I enjoyed it. I'd never read Sandman before, but I was very engaged with Nightmare Country, and so I am going to be buying this, and I am going to be reading it because it's by my guy, James Tynion IV, man. He's the best in the game right now. He is so good. So if he puts out something, I'm going to be reading it, and I recommend it for you as well. Now, if you didn't read Nightmare Country, you're probably not going to pick up The Glass House, but I would recommend that you read Nightmare Country. It's entertaining, especially if you like the Sandman universe. So I mentioned it to you once again because I'm buying it, because it is by the best out there, James Tynion IV. All right, that is all of the honorable mentions that I have for you this week. Now I just have the last book that I want to mention to you, which is my just one book pick of the week. And that book is 8 Billion Genies, issue number 8 of an 8-issue limited series from Image Comics. Here's the description. Mini-series finale. The monumental ode to worldwide wish fulfillment completes its story with an exploration of the first 8 centuries after the moment 8 billion genies appeared on Earth. We'll see how the last remaining wishes get used and discover the fates of the characters we met at the Lampwick Tavern all that time ago. What's our wish? That you'll see us through all the way to the end. I mentioned this book this week and as my just one book pick of the week because it's 8 Billion Genies. 8 Billion Genies was, I mean, you could argue everything, but I think it's hard to argue the fact that 8 Billion Genies was the biggest indie comic book of 2022, and justifiably so. It was really fun and really entertaining, really interesting, really engaging, and I liked it a lot. I was into it from the very beginning. Some other people got into it a little bit late because they discovered that people were reading it and really, really enjoying it because it's really, really good. And now, unfortunately, it's going to be ending. But I'm really curious to see how it's going to end. From the beginning, when I realized they were doing like first 8 hours or whatever they did, and first 8 days, and then first 8 weeks and first 8 months. I was like, oh, at some point we're going to get pretty far into the future, and we are. We're getting into the first 8 centuries. What does that mean? How did these genies coming to Earth change the planet almost a millennia after it? This is pretty cool. It's been a great story, and as much as I'm sad to see it end, I'm really looking forward to seeing how the story concludes. And for that reason, that is why 8 Billion Genies, issue number 8, is my just one book pick for this week. All right, that's it. So many books. I hope we got through it in a relatively manageable amount of time. If you like this video and this content, please hit that like button. It's really, really great for me, and it tells the algorithm that other people should be watching my video as well. So please hit that like button. In addition, if you haven't already subscribed, I would invite you to do that. As always, thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.